So Lee Greenwood has a bone to pick with Maren Morris for leaving country music. Now, for those of you that don't remember who Lee Greenwood is, he's the guy that wrote and sang the song God Bless the USA. Now, I grew up on country music. I was raised on the genre, and I can tell you that's the only tune by Lee Greenwood that I can name you. And if most people was being honest with you, they'd say the same thing, because once he sang that song, that was his 15 minutes of fame, that was his claim to fame, that was his achy breaky heart, and it always will be. But now he has a problem with Maren Morris leaving country music. He says that she just doesn't understand country music. And I saw one person on the internet misquote him and say that Lee Greenwood says that Maren Morris doesn't understand outlaw country music. And I laughed out loud at that one, because I can assure you that in any country music conversation that has ever happened in this country, the words outlaw country music and the name Lee Greenwood has never been said in the same sentence before. So thanks for the laugh on that one. But Lee Greenwood had this to say about her leaving country music. He said, "To suggest that country music is too patriotic is to not understand country music at all. It is in our very name, country music. Our music is written for love of our country and heart for America." Now, in all fairness, I don't remember Maren Morris saying that country music was too patriotic. I don't remember her saying that's the reason she was leaving. What she said was, she talked a lot about the divide that Donald Trump has caused. She talked about a lot of the racism, the homophobia, and the transphobia that's in there. And she talked about how that a lot of people uses these songs to punch down at other people. That's what she said she didn't want to be associated with. The only time that she ever said anything about patriotism when she was talking about the laws that Texas was trying to pass against drag queens, and she said they was pushing fear-mongering in the name of patriotism, which that's the truth. That's exactly what they've been doing. And that's what they've been doing for a long time. But for Lee Greenwood to say that that's what country music is all about, I think he lost the plot a long time ago. Country music used to represent real life and the real struggles of working people in the country. That's what it used to be. And over the years, they lost the plot drastically. You moved away from songs like Man in Black by Johnny Cash, and you ended up over here with these underwear models and Barbie dolls all dancing around swimming pools, living this plastic, fake, phony life that nobody around here lives. If you went for a drive with me and you drove down these back roads in East Tennessee and Southeast Kentucky, you would not see any of those music videos playing out. It's not an honest reflection of what country people really go through. And the patriotism that Lee Greenwood gave birth to later on got adopted by people like Toby Keith, and we'll put a boot in your ass if you don't support our war. And it just kept getting more and more that way until more and more people started pulling away from it, and this whole underground of music started coming up underneath. But he goes on to say this. He says, "It's not that politics has infiltrated country music. It's quite the opposite. Music ends up reflecting the very conversations happening across the country today." I agree with him. Music does end up reflecting the conversations we're having. But a lot of conversations that a lot of underground artists are having is not ending up in the mainstream. Tyler Childers recently released a music video for his song In Your Love, and the music video featured a story of two gay coal miners. Did you see that one in the mainstream? The people that did see it accused him of being woke and said they'd never go back to another one of his shows again. How many of you have ever heard the song by Jason Isbell called A White Man's World? How many of y'all ever listened to the album The Dirty South by the Drive-By Truckers, which was a really honest reflection of how the South once was and still is? How many of you ever heard of that one? You didn't. How many of you have heard Adeem the Artist and their brand of country music? How many of you listened to Cast Iron Pansexual? How many of you heard that album? Those are conversations that are being reflected in music, but it doesn't make it into the mainstream because the patriotism that Lee Greenwood gave birth to and Toby Keith gave a shot of steroids to has taken over, and that's why people like Maren Morris is walking away. Now, Lee Greenwood does go on to say that he wishes that Maren Morris would stick around. He says he wishes she would stick around and continue to have the conversation about country music, and that I agree with him on. I think that she should stick around because we sure as hell can't leave it to the Lee Greenwoods and the Toby Keiths and the Jason Aldeans of the world. We need to start having these conversations more, and our conversations needs to start reflecting into the mainstream. But it's something you're not going to see much of because the minute it happens, we're going to be accused of being woke. We're going to be accused of having the woke mind virus and all this bullshit. And it is bullshit. You know, country music, everyone should be allowed to play it, sing it, and have their own interpretation of it. I'm not even saying that I'm not saying that Lee Greenwood shouldn't have wrote that tune. I'm not saying that he didn't have a right to sing it. I'm not saying that Toby Keith didn't have a right to do whatever the hell he wanted to do. I'm not saying Jason Aldean can sing Try That in a Small Town all damn day. I don't give a shit. But that's the mainstream. And there's a whole underground of music underneath it that's talking about the life that's reflecting, and that's not getting heard. That's being pushed to the bottom and drowned out by this bullshit brand of patriotism.